So the last time we talked about the progressive, the progressive movement, we were talking about Roosevelt having seized coal mines so that he could make sure that coal freely got to all the different people here in the United States. The companies pay the soldiers for their labor, and this is what Roosevelt was threatening, if they wouldn't pay their workers more money. So the arbitrators that Roosevelt sent out once again got 10% pay increases for all the workers, plus reduced their hours to 9 hours from 10 hours. Yeah, exactly. On the other side, the unions would not be recognized by the arbitrators. So this was a win-win for both the companies and for the workers. Letter B on there. Some of you might have already got B, but if you haven't, here we go on letter B. Roosevelt goes after the holding companies and the trust. He goes after the holding companies and the trust. And so for those of you that were in third hour, we've already kind of talked about it, but we're going to go over it again real quickly. So holding companies were companies that just looked like they were regular companies. So here I have Ace Hardware, right? So this would look like Ace Hardware. So on the outside, when you walked into the front door, it would look like it was the helpful hardware men, right? The Ace Hardware. But now, it's not really, because if you go behind this wall here, we find out that there is a stock exchange going on behind the doors. Yes, this is a conspiracy that is happening on a regular basis, and it's going on right now behind these doors. What are they doing? They are buying, they're buying and selling stocks. By the way, the videographer behind me is my oldest daughter, Caitlin. So I just want to give her credit for doing this. Yes, so this is buying and selling a stock. That's what they're doing. Why are they doing this? Well, we're going to talk about that in a second, but that's what they're doing. They're buying and selling stock. So what they're doing is they're secretly going on and doing this, making a ton of money. And yeah, the business is, it just looks like Ace Hardware is making a lot of money. And they are kind of, because the fact is that, yeah, this secret little stock exchange is going on. The trust, if you guys can remember from when we talked about trust, are these legally binding, similar companies. If you can remember my bread company analogy of Wonder Bread, Grandma's Bread, all those different bread companies. So this is a legally binding gathering together of these similar businesses so that they can fix prices, set territories, and share the profits. Yeah, they're going to make some money off of that dough. All right, so anyways, we are talking about, yes, I'm trying to keep my humor despite all of this going on today, so bear with me. So a holding company is a company, a holding company is a company that acts as a normal, everyday company, investing some of its profits into the stock market. So this is what we're doing here, right? We're investing. In reality, its sole purpose is to buy up smaller companies and their stock and create a monopoly. So that's what they're trying to do, create monopolies here. These will go unnoticed because they look like they're just regular everyday businesses, unless you go behind the wall. And so, yes, everyone kind of misses that they are not there. So, yes, they go unnoticed. No, I'm sorry, I skipped that blank. Well, I did it, but I did it quickly. So, the blank above, I know you're like, Mr. Schmidt, slow down. In reality, its sole purpose is to buy several small companies. That's what the blank is. Several small companies. The first company, the first trust that Roosevelt goes after is a pretty big trust. It was called the Northern Securities Company, and it was a holding company that Roosevelt actually successfully was able to identify and break apart. By supporting this is the line beneath it, by supporting this act called the Hepburn Act, oh boy, that marker, it's dead. Never mind. How about this one? Nope, that one's dead too. Well, I'm on a roll here. How about this one? There we go. The Hepburn Act, H-E-B, nope, sorry, lies. All lies. How about H-E-P-B-U-R-N? The Hepburn Act. The Hepburn Act empowered, it gave power to the interstate commerce, the Interstate Commerce Commission. We talked about them, and my videographer is losing it right now. By supporting the Hepburn Act, he empowered the Interstate Commerce Commission to set and limit railroad rates. So once again, what Roosevelt's doing is, by supporting the Hepburn Act, he empowered the Interstate Commerce Commission to set and start limiting railroad acts. And remember, if you can, who's the people that are most interested in regulating railroad acts? Well, if you were here, you might be able to tell me. That would be none other than, of course, the farmers. The farmers were the ones that wanted that regulated. Letter C. I know. It could be painful doing this way, and I'm sorry if you are in pain. Roosevelt and the environment. Roosevelt had been both a hunter and outdoor enthusiast. Yeah, he actually climbed trees and photographed birds. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I don't know if I would do that. It could be kind of deadly for me. Roosevelt had been both a hunter and an outdoor enthusiast. He was a bird watcher, as I just indicated. He understood the concept of conservation. Conservation. Videographer, are you getting this? Conservation. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Conservation is what he's trying to work on now. Conservation. Ooh, and I just lost my spot. Oh yeah. He understood the concept of conservations for future days of natural resources. So he's trying to save the resources that we have for future generations. He starts with a park called Yellowstone. Oh boy, Yellowstone Park. Yeah, I'm running out of room. All right, I'm going to erase this. Hold on. I'm going. Okay. Getting my exercise in for today. Okay. Yellowstone National Park. Roosevelt will set aside 200 million, that's with an M, million acres of land for the preservation of forest, minerals, and water resources. That's a lot of land, and Roosevelt will only build on this in later years. He will establish his first forester. A gentleman by the name of Gifford Pinchot. That's right, Pinchot. And these foresters will eventually be called forest rangers, yes. So these foresters are going to eventually be called forest rangers of the United States Forest Service. So he'll establish Gifford Pinchot as the first forester, which will be rangers, and they will be working with the United States Forest Services. Letter D. Letter D. Taft, the next reluctant progressive president. Taft, as you know, is our biggest president. He stood over 6'4" and weighed 300 plus pounds. And as you know, I'm sure you do, yes, we had to get a new bathtub in the White House because he got stuck in it. I wonder why. So Taft is the next progressive president. He was reluctant because he really didn't want to be president. Instead, he wanted to be a Supreme Court justice. His dream had always been to work for the Supreme Court. But Teddy Roosevelt had him, and if you remember the quiz, as the Secretary of War. And he had done a good job for Teddy Roosevelt, and he really liked Taft, and he wanted Taft to be his next nominee. So Roosevelt will handpick Taft to be the next nominee for the Republican Party. Taft wanted to be, as I told you, the Supreme Court justice, not a president. Taft will eventually beat William Jennings Bryan, and this, by the way, is William Jennings Bryan's third attempt. If you guys can remember, he was the one that wanted to have free silver for coinage. He pledged to continue the progressive reforms of Teddy Roosevelt. Just lost that. Sorry. Yes. The dash underneath there is he will make all efforts and yet be half-hearted at the same time, kind of two-faced here, half-hearted about being the person of progressivism, and because of this, because he's not really committed to being a progressive or a Republican, he's going to actually end up dividing the Republican Party as a result. Taft's administration, letter E, he begins on a progressive note. So right off the bat, he does look like he's going to be progressive. He pledges to lower our nation's tariffs, which is a big thing because if you guys can remember, Southerners want lower tariffs all the time. However, more conservative Republicans in the Senate want instead to actually raise the tariffs. And so what he does is he goes with them. The tariff that they raise is called the Payne-Aldrich tariff, as you can see in your notes, and it was passed with his signature. Even though he had said that it was not what he was going to sign, but he ends up signing it anyways. This bill actually raised the tariffs on many foreign goods. Once again, as far as farmers were concerned, not much on the farm goods, but just on manufactured goods. In a huge slip-up, though, Taft will be quoted as saying this was one of the best tariffs passed. This is a problem because, once again, as you guys can remember, we talked about these people called muckrakers. And these muckrakers are looking for a story, and they're saying, whoa, wait a second, didn't this guy start by saying that he was opposed to tariffs and he wasn't going to support tariffs? And then all of a sudden he says, it's the best tariff I've ever seen. Not a really good way of sending a great message about what his progressive side is supposed to be. This angered many progressive Republicans. Many progressive Republicans almost from day one start talking about the fact that they may need to replace Taft. In conservation, Taft is going to have some awesome opportunities, and he takes them. In conservation of public lands, Taft went further than Roosevelt by adding even more millions of acres of land. Unfortunately for Taft, yeah, that guy, the guy we're talking about. Unfortunately for Taft, he's going to end up his Secretary of the Interior, a guy by the name of Richard Bollinger, helped private businesses obtain several million, what's the blank? So million acres of land for, lost it, for mining coal. In addition to this, Guilford Penchall will be fired. He'll be fired. Hopefully you get that. He was fired for refusing to be silenced by Taft over the Bollinger deal. Penchall was, once again, the first ranger for these public lands that are preserved by the federal government. And Penchall was not going to go down lying down, because he saw that even though Taft had added all these millions of acres of land, it didn't matter to him, because Taft was taking land away and giving it then to mining interest to mine for coal. In the end, Penchall won't be quiet. He will go to the press. Once again, we have these muckrakers and they're looking for a story. And even though Taft told him that he needed to remain silent, Penchall completely ignored Taft and went right back to the press and talked to the press again. So he was fired. This will anger Teddy Roosevelt. And all this time, while all of this is going on, Teddy Roosevelt is watching from afar. He's still doing a lot of things, living kind of like the life of an ex-president, enjoying himself. But he realizes that the person that he left to be his progressive twin turns out to be an evil Confederate who's actually working against what he was hoping for. So Roosevelt will be very upset with this, and he'll create what did he create? Oh, this creates a showdown in the next election. In the midterm election of 1910, Roosevelt will support progressive candidates and reveal his new plan that he calls New Nationalism. Roosevelt calls for more business regulation, new welfare and workplace laws, and more government income from government income tax and inheritance tax. What does this mean? Well, the president has realized that the best way to pay for government is going to be increasingly from using more and more taxes, income taxes, as well as now inheritance tax, which means that when you die, if you own a business, you own a farm, that money, that business, that farm is taxed on your death, and your relatives who are receiving this will have to pay this before they can receive the land or the business. So Teddy Roosevelt, Taft are going to be going into this election as rivals now, and it's going to cause some serious problems in this election of 1912. I know this was rough. I hope it wasn't too bad. I hope you guys got the blanks that you needed to get, and I hope you liked the introduction video. It was fun making. Thank you once again to my oldest daughter, Caitlin, and you guys have a great Corona vacation. Yes, it is kind of a vacation. Yeah, so have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll keep it on the shorter side because we're almost done. And make sure you guys read the assignment that I'm going to be sending you guys by OneNote. Make sure you not by OneNote, but by Plus Portals. Make sure you guys get that assignment and start working on it. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.